Hi everyone, this is Louisa from Capable Chef, and for this video we're partnering with UT Health Houston's School of Public Health Nourish program to bring you 2 recipes from Nourish Kitchen.
Hello, my name is Diana Guevara. I'm a registered dietitian at UT Health Houston School of Public Health's Nourish program. So we're in our beautiful kitchen today, and I'm going to walk Louisa through some delicious blood sugar-friendly recipes. So we've got a honey pecan sweet potato hash, more of a breakfast vibe, but you can also enjoy it any time of the day. And then we've also got an Asian-inspired chicken stir-fry, so a quick and easy meal that you can enjoy at home. So for our stir-fry, we're going to pair that with a brown rice. So we're going to go ahead and get started with that because it does take 30-45 minutes to cook. So we're going to get that going. While that's going, we'll get our hash and then our stir-fry going. So that's what we've got in store today. Let's go over to the stove. Okay, so for our brown rice, it's very quick and easy. So we've got a medium-sized pot. We can go ahead and take this off. We're going to add a cup of brown rice into the pot. We like brown rice, especially for diabetes, because it's a whole grain, so it's going to have some more fiber. It's going to be a little bit easier on your blood sugar. Some people don't love the flavor, which is okay. It's different than your white rice. I feel like it's a little bit nuttier, and once you get used to that flavor and texture, it's a great option. So we're going to add in, instead of water, we're actually adding some unsalted chicken stock. So we can go ahead and add that in. When we're talking about, healthier eating, we do want to watch out for our sodium intake. So how much salt we're taking in. And a lot of times those stocks, those broths, although they bring a lot of flavor, they're going to have some extra salt added in. So at the store, you're able to find those unsalted or low sodium options. Those are really great to add flavor without so much salt. So that's why we're adding that stock into our brown rice. You can do this for any whole grain. So if you're doing a quinoa, if you're doing a farro, barley.
Orzo?
Yes, orzo. Oh, delicious. You can even do this with pasta too. So you can use either a chicken or a vegetable stock, whatever you prefer. And low sodium or unsalted is really ideal. So we're bringing this to a boil. So we've got our stove on high. We're just waiting for those bubbles to come up. And once they do, we can go ahead and get that lid on, turn it to like a medium-low heat, and just let that sit while we do the rest of our cooking. So pretty quick and easy. It takes some time, but it's just kind of a set it and forget it type thing. So we're good to go here. If you're not a fan of brown rice and you want to try a different whole grain, again, you can do quinoa, you can do barley. My favorite is called farro. Have you had farro before?
I haven't.
Oh, it's so good. It's like, it's technically wheat, but it's considered a whole grain. And it's a little bit of a thicker grain, so a little bit chewier, and a little nutty in flavor. I really enjoy it, especially for like a grain bowl or something like that. I think is a delicious option. You can do a savory option. You can also do it for breakfast as like a sweeter option. So it's a fun whole grain. I would recommend it. And at HEB, if you shop at HEB, they sell the 10-minute cook. So it's like carb cooked, so it doesn't take as long to cook. So you just add in your liquid, your whole grain, and it takes 10 minutes. Super quick and easy. Yeah, I love that. I love quinoa for that reason too. It only takes 10 minutes.
No, it's so fast when you get the boxes, especially the ones they sell at HEB.
Yes, absolutely. That's why I also like pasta too. So even if you're, concerned about your blood sugar, you can still choose a whole wheat pasta, and that's still going to be a great option as part of a balanced meal. So today, our 2 recipes are going to be very balanced. So even though we are including some rice in there, we're going to load up the veggies. We're going to have some protein in there, so it's going to be a great meal for anyone, especially someone who might have blood sugar issues. So.
No, and I feel like it's not talked about enough that you are able to have like grains, and it's an important part of your diet, no matter what health issues you're talking about. what's important is that you have like variety first and foremost.
Yeah, absolutely. We are not eating enough whole grains, and whole grains have so much fiber. A lot of our B vitamins are in the whole grains, so great for energy. And again, since it's a whole grain, it's going to have more fiber, so it's not going to be as crazy on our blood sugar. So don't be afraid of your whole grains. You know, it can be your standard whole grains or your whole grain pasta, your whole grain bread. Those are still some options that you can do out there, or crackers even are some great options. Yeah. Awesome. So we are just about boiling. We're getting there. And then we will turn this down. There we go. So as it starts to boil, you'll start to see more bubbles kind of popping up. So you see that it's kind of moving. Once it's boiling, we're gonna pop that lid on and turn it down again to like a medium low. And that can just sit and simmer for like 35 minutes. So once we hopefully get to our stir fry, we should have some brown rice ready to go.
Oh, perfect.
All right, so let's go ahead and introduce our hash recipe. So we'll come back over and kind of show you what we've got going on for our hash. So we've got lots of beautiful ingredients. We wanted to do a kind of Southern comfort type of flavor profile, but of course you can always make this your own. So for our hash, our main source of carb is going to be those sweet potatoes. Love sweet potatoes. They have a nice kind of sweet flavor, lots of fiber in there, vitamin A, so really great just for overall health. If you don't like sweet potatoes, you can certainly use regular potatoes. There's nothing wrong with that. But this is just a nice little kind of to add a little bit of that sweetness to counteract, yes, more color too, to counteract some of the spices. We've got some veggies in our bell peppers. So we've got any type of color of bell pepper here. We have green and orange. We're gonna add some kale at the end, some chopped onion, and then for a little bit of that flavor, again, we're using broth here. So we've got some low sodium vegetable broth that's gonna help cook those sweet potatoes, make more of like a glaze. Some of our flavorings here, we've got some honey in there. So it's about 2 tablespoons, if I'm not mistaken. And for a serving of 4, that's totally fine because we're not really adding anything else that's super heavy. So it's a nice option there. If you want to do less of it or omit it, you're welcome to. And then we've got our spices. So we've got some chili powder, some smoked paprika, some cinnamon. If you like a little heat, we've got cayenne pepper, 1/8 teaspoon. If you like a little bit extra heat, you can do 1/4 teaspoon, and then salt, pepper to taste, and a little tomato paste to add some kind of depth to that recipe. So let's go ahead and pop over to our stove again, and we can get started with this recipe. So I'll give you the sweet potatoes, and I'll bring over our oil because that's step number 1. Okay, so for our hash, we're using kind of medium large pan or skillet. We want something that has a lid because the eggs will be cooked in the pan. We're gonna go ahead and turn that on, kind of medium high, and if you want to go ahead and add in the canola oil. We're using canola oil today, actually for both of our recipes. It's a great option. It's heart healthy. It's going to add in some healthy fats. It's also very inexpensive, so it's a great option for cooking, and it can withstand some pretty high heat. So today we're doing a lot of sauteing, kind of stir frying, so higher heat for shorter amount of time. So we do want to use an oil that can withstand that. If you prefer olive oil, that's totally fine. We can do olive oil as well. So when we're heating up our oil, what we're looking for is for it to get a little bit more shimmery in the pan. So as you kind of glide it around, right now it doesn't really move too much, but as it starts warming up, it'll start to get a little bit kind of shimmery and shiny. You can also just check if it's ready by popping an ingredient in.
Yeah.
Usually I'll pop in like
That's
a
what I
little,
do.
yeah, exactly, a little piece of onion or something. If it sizzles, it's ready. If not, it's not ready. But it's really just that patience that is going to be worth it once it's good to go. So if you want to pop in a little piece of sweet potato, see if how we're looking. Okay, not quite yet. So we'll just let that continue heating up. So what we're going to do is saute our sweet potatoes first, about 2 or 3 minutes. So it's not going to be too long before we add in the rest of our ingredients. So I'll actually bring over the rest of our ingredients, which is going to be our onions and bell peppers. So a great way to add flavor to dishes or start adding flavor to dishes is using those aromatics. So your things like your onions, your garlic, your ginger, those have a lot of flavor in them. A lot of times when we think we need to decrease the amount of salt in foods, we're thinking there's going to be no flavor, right? But we can add lots of flavor by starting with these aromatics. So adding the onion, adding the garlic, it's an extra step, but it's honestly quite worth it. So we tend to use a lot of onion, a lot of garlic in our dishes just to add more flavor. Bell peppers sauteed down, also a great option. And you're adding more fiber. You're adding actually some vitamin C with the bell peppers, which is great for our immune system. So some great nutrients coming in, not just fiber, even though fiber is a great option from our veggies, but also lots of vitamins and minerals just to keep everyone healthy. So I think we might be, yeah. Do you see how that's like a little bit shinier as it glides through the pan? Let's go ahead and add in our sweet potatoes. And I always like to add kind of away from me. Away. Yeah. Just in case there is any splatter, hot oil is not something you want to be coming at you. So I always like to add away from me. And then we can use our little spatula to kind of stir that around and really let those cook down for a little bit. Now, if you are wanting to make this for breakfast and you don't have a whole lot of time, one thing that you can do to make this a little bit faster is actually pre-cooking your sweet potatoes just a little bit. So what we can do is add a little bit of water to a microwave-safe bowl with our sweet potatoes and top it with either a lid or I do a wet paper towel. You can pop it in the microwave for like 2.5 minutes, and that'll just help start the cooking process so that once you go into the pan, they're already a little bit soft. It's going to be a quicker cook. So we're just letting this kind of cook down for a minute or so before we add in the rest of our ingredients.
Would you say that sweet potato is also something that you could like meal prep in like a large batch like beforehand so that you're able to add it just to the recipes like hashes or for breakfast?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually love using, I love roasted vegetables. That's one of my favorite ways to eat vegetables. So what you can do is, let's say for dinner one day or maybe a Saturday or a Sunday, you can do a big batch of sweet potatoes, maybe 2 or 3 sweet potatoes. It's actually quite a lot. We're gonna roast them, so pop them, coat them with a little bit of either canola oil or olive oil or avocado oil, whichever oil you prefer. Any spices you like, so if you want them to be a little spicier, you can do a chili powder, you can do paprika, you can do harissa. Spice blend is really delicious with sweet potatoes.
I love harissa.
Yeah, it's so good. Or you can do just kind of salt, pepper, Italian seasoning, whatever flavor profile you prefer. We can roast them in a sheet pan, so something like what we had our ingredients on, so something flat. I like to use parchment paper to make cleanup easier. So you spread out the sweet potatoes, make sure they have enough space, pop them in the oven, high heat, like 375, 400, depending on your type of oven, and let that cook for about 25 minutes, depending on how big your pieces of sweet potatoes are. So that can be something that you enjoy for dinner that night, but then with the leftovers, the next day you can pop them into your pan. Since they're already cooked, you're really just heating them up. add in some spinach or some collard greens, or today we're doing kale, and pop in your eggs, and you've got a really delicious and quick breakfast. So I definitely do recommend that. Leftover roasted veggies make a great hash, so great option. All right, so that's looking really nice. It's starting to soften a little bit, and it's looking good. So let's go ahead and add in the rest of our ingredients. We've got our onions. We're gonna add in, there we go. Perfect. Wonderful. And you can start to hear that sizzle. That's beautiful. So we've got our onions. We're gonna add in our bell pepper as well. And so you'll notice the way that we chopped our vegetables is gonna help our kind of hash become a hash. So our sweet potatoes, we tried to make them a little bit on the smaller side so that they cook faster, and so that you can get, you know, a sweet potato and some egg and some bell pepper.
A bite of each.
Yeah, a little bit of everything in each bite. For our bell peppers, we did a small dice, and then we did that as well for our onions. So we're gonna let that saute again for about a minute or two, and I'm gonna actually bring over the garlic as well. So again, talking about those aromatics, those are things like your onions. Garlic is a great option for adding flavor to your dishes. It's also just great for you in general. So we like to add that to our dishes, but we're adding it once everything is already in the pan because it burns very easily. So once garlic burns or turns a little bit brown, it gets quite bitter. So we want to prevent it from burning by making sure that it's not the first thing that hits the pan, or if it is the first thing that hits the pan, we're adding everything else in pretty quickly and we're moving the ingredients around like you are right now. So that's a great, great job. We're looking for everything to kind of soften, maybe start to get a little brown. I don't think we're gonna get there quite yet, but maybe start to get a little bit of see-through in the onions. And then we're gonna add our flavorings. And this recipe is filled with lots and lots of flavors. So like I mentioned, we've got lots of spices. We've got thyme as our fresh herb. So I'm just gonna start bringing these ingredients over so that we're ready to go. So yeah, what we did today is called mise en place, and it really just means getting all of your ingredients ready to go before you start cooking. It does take a little bit of time, you know, to prepare everything, but that way you're not dealing with something on the stove, it's gonna burn, and then you realize you need to go measure something and you're kind of running around. So it makes the cooking process a lot easier, a lot more enjoyable, because a lot of times people just don't enjoy cooking. So if you can make it easier for yourself or more enjoyable, then that's a great thing we can do.
Yeah, and we have everything in separate containers right now, but that's, if you know that these dry ingredients are all just going to come together, you don't need to put them in their own separate clear bowl.
Yes, yes, yes. We just do this here just because it looks nice.
It's better for the recording.
Exactly, exactly. But if you're at home and you know that all the spices are going in at the same time, you can just measure everything out into one container, and that's totally fine. Or at least, at the very least, if you don't want extra dishes, because I hate washing dishes, so I get it, at least have your measuring spoons out and be ready to go. So have your lids off, measuring spoons out, so that you know, okay, I'm just going to pop these in as whenever it's time. So we're looking pretty good. I think we can start adding our spices. So let's go ahead and add our herbs. Actually, we're going to start with our thyme. So this is fresh thyme. We're actually very fortunate here at the UT Health School of Public Health Nourish program to have a garden outside. So we have some fresh thyme from our garden. If you don't have fresh thyme, you can always use dried. That's totally fine. We would just use less of it just because dried herbs are going to be a little bit more concentrated in flavor since they have dried. So we're going to use less of that if you're using a dried thyme. But herbs are, again, a great way to add flavor, add freshness to your meals without adding extra salt or extra fat or sugar. So it's a really great option. And if you have a little space of sunlight outside, starting a couple of herbs outside is a great way just to enjoy nature and also have some ingredients just out on your windowsill or wherever. So highly recommend that. And thyme grows year round. It just survives. I don't know how it does it, but it does. So thyme is a really great one. As long as you keep watering it and it gets some sunshine, it'll stay very nice. So let's go ahead and add in our spices again. The rest of our spices. So this is going to be our chili powder. We've got a teaspoon of chili powder. We've got half a teaspoon of smoked paprika. So the smoked is going to add just a little bit of that extra kind of smokiness that you tend to get from, let's say, like a bacon or something like that. You still get a little bit of that with our smoked paprika. We're going to add some cinnamon, so a little bit unusual for a savory dish, but with that sweet potato, with the honey, it just works. So it's a great option. And cinnamon is really great for blood sugar control as well.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So adding it, of course, it's not a magic pill, but adding it to your dishes is really great for blood sugar control. We're going to add some cayenne pepper. Again, if you like a little bit of kick, you can do a 4th teaspoon. We're just adding an 1/8 teaspoon right now, just in case anyone is a little bit sensitive to heat. And then we're moving on to our salt. So we use kosher salt because it is bigger, like a bigger grain. So you can taste it a little bit more. You can use less of it. With our salt, again, we're measuring. We're making sure we're not adding too much. And nothing else that we added really has that much salt. So our vegetable broth is going to be low sodium, so that's not going to have any added salt. And everything else has been just straight herbs or spices. So a little bit of salt is fine. And then we're adding some black pepper. So 1/4 teaspoon there, freshly cracked if you have it. If not, regular black pepper is totally fine. And we're going to go on with our broth. So this is just going to help create a little bit of a glaze. So we've got our broth, and then we've got our honey. So 2 tablespoons of honey, and I'll help you with that because that'll be a while. So a little tip, if you're measuring honey or maple syrup or agave, if you spray the measuring spoon or container with a little bit of spray oil, that helps get all of that goodness measured out. And if you spray it into your container that it's going to, that also helps get it out. So you're not losing a bunch on both ends. So again, if you want to do a little bit less, you're more than welcome to, but this recipe, we calculated the nutrition facts and it's actually very balanced, so it's a great option. Okay, so we're going to let that kind of sit and thicken for a little bit. So kind of give it a nice stir to make sure that honey and the broth are nicely incorporated. I can tell the sweet potatoes are already looking nice and soft. So we're just gonna let that kind of simmer down so that we get a little bit of a glaze. Let that cook down for a little bit while we prep for our, we actually forgot one more ingredient. That was my mistake. Some tomato paste. So it's about a tablespoon of tomato paste. This just adds a little bit more depth in the flavor. Again, you don't have to include any of this, but tomato paste will add just a little bit extra oomph to our flavor for this hash. So this is a great option if you're doing like a special occasion, maybe a Sunday brunch with family. But again, if you want to just do a more basic version of this with leftover veggies, or maybe you just saute the onion and the bell pepper and you know, call it a day, maybe have it with toast, you can certainly do that as well. So you can really make this recipe your own. So now that we've got everything incorporated, kind of mixed through, we'll go ahead and introduce our next recipe. So we're doing a little breakfast option. We're also doing kind of like a lunch, or you could call it lunch or dinner, which is our stir fry. So our stir fry is going to be very quick and easy as well. So perfect. Yeah, we can just pop this here. All right, so let's show y'all the ingredients for that. So stir fry is a great option for when you have just random veggies that you want to get rid of. Today we're doing broccoli, we're doing bell pepper, carrot, mushroom, and snap peas, but you can really do any veggies. And then we're making a very simple sauce. So we have some canola oil for the stir frying. For our sauce, we can go ahead and get that mixed. We've got half a cup of chicken stock. So since we're using chicken in our recipe, figured chicken stock is great for our sauce. So if you want to add that into our bowl, even though it's same size bowl, we didn't really need to do that. We've also got some flavoring. So we've got some soy sauce, which is going to be, I believe, 2 tablespoons of the soy sauce. So we can add that in. We've also got some toasted sesame oil. So that was 1 teaspoon of the sesame oil, just adding a little bit of flavor. The soy sauce was low sodium. So again, really being mindful of how much sodium or salt we're adding into our dishes.
Yeah, and I feel like soy sauce is one of those things where you can't really tell the difference between low sodium or high sodium. So there's really no reason to get the full sodium because it tastes exactly the same.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah, so that's a nice, like, easy switch. Low sodium soy sauce still has a decent amount of sodium, so we don't want to add a whole lot of it, but a little bit for flavor works out. So again, we calculated the sodium for this. It works out pretty well. It's like 500 milligrams per portion, which is good for one recipe, or for one meal. And then we've got our rice vinegar. So again, adding more. Oh, that's our.
I believe this was our.
Yeah, that's our sesame oil. And then what was before that was our rice vinegar. And then we're adding again some aromatics. So let's go ahead and add in our garlic cloves, which is 2 garlic cloves each. And then we've also got grated ginger. So 1 tablespoon of grated ginger is going to go into our sauce. And again, that's just adding lots of flavor. And we can give it a quick little stir. Our sesame seeds are going to be just a top when we serve, so that will be a delicious little crunch. And our sauce is ready to go. On the side, we also have our cornstarch and our water. We're going to wait to mix those together because they tend to separate. So I like to mix them right before we're going to use them. But what we can do is bring over our canola oils first and start the stir frying process. So let's go back to the stove. And you can see our hash has been simmering for a little bit. We can turn it down if you feel like it's evaporating a little bit too quickly. So kind of like
all the flavors.
Yeah, it's lovely. Especially if you have a little bit of, if you add extra cayenne pepper, maybe watch out to not get it straight to your face. But yeah, this is beautiful. We're gonna start our stir fry just by turning our heat on, medium-high heat. You can go pretty high. And again, we're heating that tablespoon of canola oil. Again, patience here. So we're gonna let that heat. We're going to stir fry our veggies first. So we've got all of our beautiful options that we can just have nearby, ready to go. And again, if you don't have mushrooms or you don't like bell pepper, you can use any vegetable that you enjoy. If you like bok choy is in season right now, if you prefer that, you can do that. You can really kind of make this your own, which is great. And we were talking about earlier, so of course we chopped everything up and it was all fresh, but if you want this to be a quick and easy recipe, a frozen vegetable stir-fry mix is a great option. Generally, your frozen vegetables, as long as they don't have like sauce or seasoning added to it, they're gonna be pretty good. They're just frozen vegetables, so great option. Let's go ahead and check our oil. You can see that's definitely looking shimmery. So let's go ahead and add in our veggies. So whatever you want to add in first, we can do our carrots.
I did carrots totally because it was closest to me.
Yeah. Amazing. All right, and as we add, we can also kind of stir around, and you can hear that sizzling, so that looks great. For our carrots, what we did was just slice them at an angle, very thinly sliced. So again, the way you prep your veggies is going to affect how it cooks. So if you were to do big chunks of carrots, they would take much longer to cook, just like our sweet potatoes took a little bit longer to cook. But since the stir fry is very short amount of time, high heat, we want them to cook quickly. So we can go ahead and add in the rest of our veggies. We've got our snap peas. Again, the recipe calls for about a cup. You can do the whole bag if you'd like. This is your show, so whatever you prefer. It looks like we're getting a little blistery, so I'm just turning that temp down. Again, we're still medium-high. We were just a little too high. And then we can go in with our broccoli. And we did the florets here, so again, if you prefer to just buy like the bag that's already pre-chopped, great option. Frozen broccoli, yeah, broccolini is a great option. We love broccolini, so that's another option as well. Or if you want to do the broccoli crown and just chop it yourself, that works as well. The broccoli stem is edible, so if you want to include it, I would just chop it a little bit thinner, and you can pop it in just like it would be a carrot. So it's a great option. Let's go ahead and add in the mushrooms. So we just used some regular kind of white mushrooms. You can use any mushrooms you'd like in this recipe. They would be delicious. We used about a cup, but again, if you want to add more, we love vegetables. They're so good for balancing our blood sugars, so the more the better. So we're stirring that around, and then we'll add in that final veggie, which is going to be our bell pepper. So we chose these veggies because they're, generally enjoyed in an Asian-inspired dish. But also, look at those colors. We've got orange, we've got red, we've got green. We've even got like a white brown with our mushrooms. So it's a really great option. Instead of kind of having to focus on which vegetable is best for me or what should I do here and there, just thinking about more colors. So you talk about eating the rainbow. That's a way of just saying, if we have something red-orange, if we have something green, if we have something kind of in that like white or purple category, then we're going to be pretty well covered in terms of our vitamins and minerals, because the different colors tend to correspond with different vitamins and minerals, so they're a really great option. So those veggies are looking really nice. Here, it's really up to you on how crunchy or not so crunchy you like them. So some people like their veggies much softer, more of like a steamed veggie type of texture. Some people like a little crunch to them. I prefer crunch. So I would probably, we can kind of call it there and then go on to our chicken. So what we're gonna do is actually grab a large bowl, a clean bowl, and kind of empty the pan into the bowl. I usually have to do this myself, this very heavy pan. So actually I'll have you help with the spatula. And again, always away from you, just because you don't want things splattering.
Oh, a lone snap pea.
In your face. But yeah, this is helpful because when we cook when we stir fry or when we cook something in high heat for a short amount of time, we want them to be able to kind of maintain that crunch and not steam each other. So we don't want to overcrowd our pan. If you ever watch any cooking shows or talk to any chefs, they always talk about overcrowding the pan. We don't want to overcrowd our pan. That's why we used a very large pan. And that's why we're kind of taking out the veggies first. If you want to just push them out to the side and cook your protein, you could do that too. So we're going to add in that other tablespoon of olive oil.
So if someone didn't have that, like a very large pan like we have on the show, would you recommend that they cook their veggies a couple at a time and whatever fit?
Yeah. So we call that batch cooking. So if you have a much smaller pan, you can just do like half of them, saute them, pop them in a bowl, and keep sauteing and popping them in a bowl. So you can do that. Or you can like look for more of like a wok type situation that can kind of handle a little bit more. Or you can just, put them in the oven if you have a large oven pan. So different options. Since our pan was already hot, I think we can just go ahead and go in. So I have some tongs over there. We can use some for the raw chicken, and then the other ones will be for the cooked chicken. Okay. And what we're gonna do is just place them. So let's make sure that the oil is covering all of the pan. That's good. All right, so now we can just place them. I like to try to arrange them so that they have a little bit of space, again, not overcrowding the pan. And once they're on the pan, we're not gonna touch them until they've cooked on that one side. Because what's happening is if we try to move it right now, it'll stick and it'll just be a little bit of a nightmare. But once it's sealed, it's gonna be a lot easier to pop out and flip. So we wanna cook it a couple minutes on each side until it's nice and fully cooked through, so no longer pink on the inside. While you're doing that, I'm just gonna bring over our eggs because our hash is looking really nice and very well reduced. So let me just flip these over. Okay, our last step for our hash, we have a nice beautiful kind of glaze forming. That means that some of that liquid has evaporated, and now we have just a little bit of a thicker liquid around this pan. So what we're gonna do is my favorite part of making a hash. You make a little well. So we want to try to fit 8 eggs in here. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it, but we're going to try our best. So we're going to make little spaces for our eggs to hop into. If you want to be super fancy about it, you can crack each egg into a bowl. And this just helps avoid getting any shells into the dish itself. So we can actually, now that we have one, we can just pop it into one of the little wells. Beautiful. And we'll just keep doing that into each of the wells. So the way we're going to do this today is we're going to pop these in. Then we're going to, I like to add the kale in kind of at the very end, so we can actually add the kale on top.
Thank you.
And then we will cover the pan and let the eggs cook. So that just takes a couple.
Oh, I think we're going to make it happen.
Yes!
I think it's going to be the full 8.
Wow, beautiful. I love a hash. It's one of my favorite kind of breakfast options. If it's on the menu at brunch, I'm always getting it. I think it's such a great kind of hearty meal, especially for a brunch where you're kind of looking at more of a breakfast lunch situation.
Yeah, I never get anything sweet for brunch just because I feel like it's not going to satiate me.
Yes, yeah.
But even though it sounds so good, it's like late enough in the day where I'm like, I need something more filling.
Yeah, you need a real meal. So yeah, I like to see if anyone wants to split the sweet item for brunch. And
Yeah, like kind of like a dessert.
Yes, exactly. All right, beautiful. So we've got all 8 eggs in here. Great job. We're gonna just pop in the kale on top, and that'll just wilt down. And then we've got our beautiful lid. Let that cook down until the whites have fully cooked, and then the eggs, like the yolk is still runny. So that should be about, let's say, 5-10 minutes, depending on how you like your eggs. All right, for our chicken, if you want to go ahead and see, yeah, beautiful. So it flips very easily once it's cooked on one side. Oh. Lovely. That's okay. I'll go ahead and grab it, and I'm going to go ahead and wash my hands as well as you're flipping.
It's a good reminder that accidents happen even in a professional kitchen.
Exactly, and that's okay. That's part of cooking. That's the fun part of cooking, and being able to just kind of laugh at yourself. All right, so that's looking good. What we're looking for is that beautiful kind of browning, so that's perfect. Yeah, and sometimes you still have to kind of scrape them off, but usually once it's nicely cooked, it'll just kind of pop off. So great job. Yeah, so this is why we like a bigger pan, just so that we have enough space for everything to get that nice seal. It's not kind of steaming itself, which is what often happens when we're overcrowded on our pan. So that is looking beautiful. And here we already added our salt and pepper to our sauce, but if you wanted to instead salt and pepper your chicken, you could do that. So it's really personal preference. Either way, our sauce is going to cover everything, so it'll still get in there. Now today we're doing chicken breasts, and what we did was, what makes it a little bit easier is to get the tenderloins and just cut them into
I always buy the tenderloins.
Yeah, they're so much easier to deal with. But again, you can buy the chicken breasts and cut them into strips and then cubes. That's totally fine as well. You can also use other different types of protein. So if you wanted to do a plant-based protein, you could do a tofu. If you wanted to do a seafood, you can do shrimp. So really, whatever preference you have for your stir fry is totally fine. What we're looking for is for it to be small in size so that it cooks quickly. So if we were going to do a full chicken breast, it would just take a lot of time and it might dry out. So if we do these little bits of chicken and make sure they get sealed on each side, then we're going to be in great shape for our beautiful stir fry. So as those last bits continue to cook, we can check our rice. It's been about, I think, like 30-40 minutes. So we can take a quick peek at our rice.
Oh, perfect. Beautiful.
Yeah, that looks really great. So what we're looking for is for all the liquid to be absorbed. So if you kind of push your rice to the side, you can see everything. There's no more liquid left, and the grain looks nice and fluffy. We're going to just go ahead and turn that off and let that cover it again. Let it sit for another 5-10 minutes while we finish up our stir fry. And our rice is ready to go. Our stir fry is looking great. We're just finishing up our chicken. And then our skillet should be finishing up in a couple minutes as well. So with our chicken specifically, and with really any protein, you do want to make sure it's fully cooked. Chicken specifically because of the risk of salmonella or foodborne illness. So we want to make sure it's no longer pink on the inside. If you were to bake it, you would want the juices to run clear. So that's another way to check if your chicken's ready. Or if you have like a chicken breast or chicken thigh and you want to use a thermometer, you can do that. And we're looking for 165 degrees Fahrenheit for that internal temperature. With the little chicken bites that we have here, typically I'll just kind of break one open, see if it's fully cooked on the inside, and that works well. So as your little pieces are fully cooked, especially the smaller ones, we can start putting them in the bowl with our veggies to kind of clear the pan for our sauce. So our last step, once we have our chicken ready, is going to be finishing up our sauce. So what we've got for our sauce is, of course, what we've already made, which is that mixture with that chicken broth. We've got our soy sauce, our rice vinegar, our sesame oil, so a lot of beautiful flavors. And then we're going to thicken it to make it more of a glaze, kind of like a nice stir-fry sauce. So the way that we're going to thicken it is with cornstarch and water. So this is called making a slurry. But I'll wait for that to be finished. And I do want to check on our skillet, see how that's going. Okay, our skillet is looking beautiful. We're looking for that kale to kind of wilt down. Again, we want our eggs, the whites, to be fully cooked. And depending on your preferences, your yolks to be still a little bit runny. So I'm still seeing a couple of whites kind of still clear. So we're going to let that sit for just a couple more minutes. Our chicken is looking beautiful. Do you make stir fry at home typically?
Yeah, I do. I make it with shrimp a lot because I feel like it's so easy if you get it just in a frozen bag. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those nice dishes where you can just, if you have something like left over in the fridge, you can just add it. Mm-hmm. Or with like fried rice too. It's one of those like, you just mix it all together and it works out just fine.
Yes. The stir fry is a great option. So when maybe you're going out of town and you have a random half a bell pepper and some onion and these random veggies, just pop it in a stir fry and you're good to go. So it's a really great option for kind of also when your veggies are kind of starting to get a little sad, it's time for them to get used. A stir fry is a great option for that too.
Yeah, it's a good cleaning out the pantry, fridge, and every other nook and cranny of your kitchen.
Yes. And what makes it so delicious, of course, you've got your veggies, of course, you've got your protein, but then you can always make it fun with a sauce. So always kind of being mindful of what we're adding to our sauces. Again, like I mentioned, our soy sauce might be a little bit higher in sodium, so we're using a little bit less of it, more of those aromatics, like our garlic and our ginger, that really brightens things up. We have a recipe that is very similar to this that we also do with a little bit of the juice of an orange, and that one is really delicious because you get a little bit of sweetness to it too. So you can really, you can really kind of make it your own and add whatever flavors you prefer to your dish. So we are just finishing up, and you can see that on the pan you have a little bit of kind of like chicken bits, but that is beautiful because we are actually going to deglaze the pan with our sauce. So we're going to pick up some of that flavor that the chicken left behind, and that's going to go into our sauce, which is great. So we can pop out those chicken. It looks like it's all looking really good. And get moving with our sauce. Okay, so now that we have this going, we're gonna add in the sauce that we had previously mixed. And we can just turn the temperature down a little bit just to help that go in. And you can actually use that tiny whisk or a bigger whisk to just kind of pick up some of that little bits of chicken and mix that sauce up. So while that is happening, we're also going to make our slurry. So our slurry is really just equal parts cornstarch and water. So we have 1.5 tablespoons of cornstarch. We'll add it to a little bowl. Have you made a slurry before?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, awesome. Do you want to make it?
Sure.
All right. And then we're adding the same amount, so 1.5 tablespoons of water. And we're just mixing that up. You can use a little whisk, or you can use a fork, whatever you prefer. And this is going to help create a nice kind of thick, kind of glazy sauce, which will be delicious for our stir fry. So this is a great way to kind of thicken up your sauces without adding a whole bunch of flour or something like that.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Adequately combined.
All right. So the hotter your pan is, the faster this will happen. So I turned the heat pretty much all the way down so that we can do this a little bit more gently. So we're going to add in our slurry to our sauce. And we can turn up to like medium-low heat and start whisking. So as you whisk, you'll see that it very quickly starts to thicken up. And we want this to, once it's fully mixed, we can bring it to a little bit of a boil. It really depends on how thick you want your sauce. We didn't have a whole lot of liquid in there, so we can really just, once it's fully incorporated, we can go ahead and add in our veggies and our chicken. So that is looking beautiful. I'll just turn it down a little bit more. But you can see it's already become kind of a glaze. It's thickened up really nicely. So we're just mixing that up. Beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful, nice and thick. And then we're gonna add in all of our ingredients back in. So I'll take this out. And then all we have to do now is just kind of mix everything together. So you want to make sure that the sauce kind of coats your chicken and your veggies, and that's our stir fry. So quick and easy and delicious. Again, if you wanted to do like a shrimp takes a little bit less time to cook, so that's an option. Or if you wanted to do like a pre-cooked shrimp and just do the quickest stir fry.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just pop it in to reheat and you're good to go. If you have no time at all, you can do frozen shrimp, frozen vegetables, reheat them very quickly, and then make your sauce. And you've got like 15-minute stir fry.
Oh yeah.
So delicious. Great option. All right. So while that is finishing up, I think our skillet is good to go. We're going to turn that off. We're going to top with some pecans, so that's going to give a little bit of crunch, a little bit of healthy fats from the nuts, and a delicious southern flair. So this is good to go. I'm going to go ahead and start moving them to our cutting board so we can display our beautiful dishes. And I'll bring over a dish so that we can serve our rice. So if you want to go ahead and do about half a cup of rice in our plate. Yes. So for these recipes, they're both going to be served four. So for this hash, I think it's so beautiful just as is in the skillet. So you can just kind of pop in and carve out 2 of the eggs for 1 portion, and that is going to be 1 portion of the hash. For the nutrition facts on that, a serving is going to have 413 calories, so it's going to be a nice meal. 39.1 grams of carbohydrates, so about 40 grams of carbs, which is a really nice amount. It's not too much, not too little. 15 grams of protein, 15.7, so about 16 grams of protein. So a nice start to your day, and then 22 grams of fat. So the fat is coming from the canola oil as well as the nuts, and then a little bit from the eggs. But again, most of it is healthy fat, so the canola oil and the nuts, so that is going to be really satisfying, satiating. So this should keep you full for a couple of hours, at least 3 or 4 hours. And then we've got our beautiful stir fry right here. Lovely. So we served about half a cup of that cooked brown rice, and we did some chicken and some veggies, so about 1/4 of that whole skillet we can add on top of here. And the nutrition for that is about 400 calories per serving. So again, a nice amount of calories, not too much. 45 grams of carbs, 30 grams of protein because we have chicken, animal protein, so much easier to get that protein up. And then 10 grams of fat, 6 grams of fiber. So a really great option, really loading up those veggies. And then we can top it with a little bit of sesame seed on top just to have, yeah, a little or a lot. Just to have a little extra crunch and again some delicious flavors. So these are our meals for today. This was so fun. It's quick and easy. Again, you can make it as easy as possible or as complicated as possible. Of course, we added lots of spices, we chopped our own veggies and all of that thing, but you can always do frozen. You can do canned if you want to rinse off some of that sodium. You can do canned vegetables as well. And you can make this your own, add your spices or whatever you prefer. So
This is all perfect.
awesome. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you all for watching, and we will see you next time, hopefully.
Thank y'all for having me.
Of course.
And capable chef.
Yes, absolutely. So this was so fun, and we'll see you next time.
Great. Thank you guys.